Destiny doesn't present itself in clear terms. It doesn't come with a manual or an obvious path. It whispers in the quiet moments, hinting at truths that only those willing to listen can truly understand. Loren had always known he was different. From the time he was a child, he felt disconnected, as though he didn't belong among the people around him. It wasn't just about being out of place. It was deeper, a knowing sense that he was meant for something more significant. Sitting alone in his room, surrounded by the aged pages of books filled with myths and symbols, Loren's fingers traced the outline of an ancient mark on a page. A pulse, almost alive, throbbed beneath his touch, sending a shiver up his spine. He leaned back, memories flooding in of those times when people seemed unsettled by him, as if his presence cast light on their hidden shadows. It wasn't hostility he saw in them, but discomfort, an unease they didn't know how to express. People often told him to ignore the little signs, the odd dreams, the coincidental encounters, the gut feelings that guided his choices. It's just coincidence, they would say, brushing off what Loren knew were moments of significance. But deep within, he couldn't dismiss them. There was a calling, a quiet urging that refused to be ignored. He stood up, looking out of his window as a storm gathered strength in the distance. The wind howled, rattling the glass as lightning split the sky. The storm seemed to echo his own restlessness, the sense that something momentous was approaching. Loren spoke softly, more to himself than anyone else. "There's more out there. I can feel it. I have to follow this." The words triggered a memory, being a young boy on a swing, watching other children play, feeling as if he were observing life from behind a veil. Even then, he had known he wasn't like them. He was the black sheep, the outsider, the one who walked his own path when everyone else followed the same well-worn trail. It used to make him feel isolated, even lonely, but now he understood it was part of a larger design. It was preparation for the journey he was meant to take. Loren closed the old book and stepped outside into the storm. The rain pelted him, cold and sharp, but he felt invigorated, as if the storm's energy was charging the very air around him. He approached a stone monolith hidden deep in the forest, its surface covered in carvings that glowed faintly as he neared. His breath quickened. He had seen this monolith before in dreams that felt too vivid to ignore. A voice, more felt than heard, resonated through him. "Chosen one, heed the path before you." It was not a command, but an invitation. Loren's pulse raced as he reached out, fingers brushing the stone's cold, wet surface. The carvings lit up, casting a soft light that enveloped him, warm despite the storm. The calling that had whispered to him all his life now felt like a song, clear and unwavering. The isolation, the struggles, the feeling of not fitting in, they were all preparing him for this moment. Loren's eyes filled with determination. He wasn't just different for the sake of being different. He was chosen, and he was ready to embrace what that meant. The monolith hummed with energy beneath Loren's fingertips, sending a current through him that felt both foreign and familiar. The carvings, now illuminated with an otherworldly glow, seemed to pulse in time with his heartbeat. For the first time in his life, he felt truly connected to something beyond himself, beyond the mundane world that had always seemed so small to him. Rain still pelted the clearing, but Loren barely noticed. The storm felt distant, a backdrop to the moment of revelation unfolding before him. The wind, fierce and biting moments before, had stilled as if holding its breath. Loren closed his eyes and let the warmth from the monolith spread through him, reaching into every corner of his mind and soul. A memory surfaced, one he hadn't recalled in years. It was of his grandmother, her eyes wise and kind, speaking in whispers when she thought no one else was listening. "You have the sight, my boy. The world will try to make you doubt it, but don't let them. When the time comes, you'll know." He hadn't understood her then, dismissing her words as the eccentric musings of an old storyteller. But now, with the power of the monolith coursing through him, he finally did. The voice that had whispered before now spoke louder, resonating inside him as though it came from his very core. "You are the bridge between what was and what will be. You carry the light that cannot be extinguished, even when the world turns dark." Loren's eyes flew open, the words igniting a fire in him that pushed aside the chill of the rain and the fears that had plagued him for years. The doubts that had crept in during long, lonely nights faded, replaced by a clarity that left no room for hesitation. He knew who he was and why he had been chosen. The glowing light from the carvings began to shift, forming an intricate pattern that wound its way up his arm, marking his skin with a design that felt ancient and powerful. It didn't burn or hurt. It felt like being claimed by the universe itself, like wearing a truth that no one could take from him. A sudden flash of lightning illuminated the forest, turning night to day for the briefest of moments. Loren caught sight of his reflection in a puddle at his feet. His eyes were different now, no longer holding the uncertain gaze of a man searching for his purpose. Instead, they shone with a fierce resolve, a testament to the journey that was just beginning. "Chosen one," the voice spoke again, softer now, as though satisfied. "Your path lies beyond this forest, beyond what you know. The road will be treacherous, but you will not walk it alone." Loren nodded, understanding that while he may have begun this journey feeling like an outsider, he was no longer walking into the unknown as a lost soul. He was stepping forward as the embodiment of a legacy he was only beginning to uncover. The storm resumed its ferocity, rain lashing around him as if to test this newfound strength. But Loren stood firm, eyes fixed on the horizon that was now filled with promise rather than uncertainty. He turned away from the monolith and started walking, each step feeling lighter, as if the weight of his doubts had been shed like an old skin. The world had changed, and so had he. Whatever lay ahead, he would meet it with the unyielding spirit of someone who knew he was chosen, not just to survive but to illuminate the path for others. And so, as the storm raged around him, Loren walked on, no longer afraid, but ready.